don't have a script.
No,
I gave you like a week to get ready, and you don't have a script.
I do not.
Oh my God.
So, unscripted.
We can't beat Tate doing this. This is so amateur.
Hi guys. So Jun and I thought it was useful to go through a few of the structural attributes of samples and deposits that we work on, and some of this forms the foundation for the structural geology courses that we give. What I've got here is a number of samples that I want to go through and share the characteristics of and some of the interpretations. Now keep in mind they are interpretations, and of course there'll be other geologists out there that will have a different take on it, and that's important because that's what sponsors discussion, and that can be what helps us find a deposit. But in the interim, I wanted to go through some of the samples that I have collected, some of the ones that I've worked on as part of assignments, and just show you a few of the things that we look at when we're trying to unravel the history of these and what localises your hydrothermal mineralisation. The first set of samples I've got here, I've got a suite of 4 samples, and I'll go through some of the textures in each one of those and how it's important for understanding this in the context of mineralisation. The 4 samples, this one here is from the Mulgary orogenic gold deposit. That's from the eastern side of the Scotia Canal Dome near Kalgoorlie. These 2 samples are from the world-class Cananabel orogenic gold deposit just outside of Kalgoorlie, and that's been a gift that keeps giving for ages. And the final sample is one that I picked up at the Perth Gem and Mineral Show a few years ago. I don't know where it came from, but the textures in that and the overprinting are fantastic. So full shout out to people like Pete Willems, who helps organise that show. And what we'll do is we'll start with this one and just look at some of the overprinting relationships and geometries in there, and then look at when we think the mineralisation may have come in with respect to those overprinting and geometric characteristics. Okay, the first sample we've got here, unknown provenance, but multi-stage overprinting history in it in terms of hydrothermal mineral deposition events. In the background we've got some hematically altered material which has got layering in it, and it's also got some fold geometries, there's a bit of brecciation, and there's also very fine stylolites in there. Now those stylolites are quite interesting, that some of them are truncated by the veins, and yet other stylolites cut across the veins. The other interesting thing is we've got this vein stage through here, and you can see that there's dark material coming down, and it hits the vein edge and goes along it. So this is a composite vein, and it's cutting across this vein stage. Then, if we go up and look here, this vein stage is now cutting across this one, which is cut by this one. So we've got several stages of veining in there, and then in the background to that, we've got this brecciation going on, and when you step back and look at it, you think, okay, well, where did the mineralisation come in? We've got a lot of structural architecture, we've got a lot of overprinting, we've got a lot of hydrothermal mineral deposition. If your mineralisation is associated with sulphides, they're coming through here on this stylolytic fabric, which is cross-cutting everything. So all of this is background and substrate and probably ground preparation, but your sulphides are coming in relatively late. So it's important to document the geometries, measure the orientations, look at the overprinting, and in here, the most important thing is the overprinting, that the sulphides are actually relatively late. Mm-hmm. So you could go through and measure up all of these vein stages, and what you might find is they have nothing to do with the mineralisation stage. The next example that I'll show you, this is from Cananabel, and we've got 2 stages of mineralisation here. The first stage is within these crustiform veins. These veins were localised on the main permeability pathway at the deposit, which was the Fitzroy structure. The Fitzroy structure localised these veins right up against it, and what you see is these veins have had a protracted history. You've got this whiter material through here and the grey material through there, but the grey material is all brecciated. So this is a breccia vein through the middle of this crustiform veining, and you can see that the crustiform veining is actually brecciated too. These greyer portions here are where it's starting to break up as well. The other interesting thing is you can see this black material lining the edges of these white euhedral crystals on this stage of the vein. This is the very first stage of mineralisation at Cananabel. Volumetrically minor, it's telluride associated, you've got colloidite, melanite, hessite, älteyite, etc. All of that stuff there is actually an overprint. In thin section, this black telluride associated mineralisation that has visible gold with it is cross-cutting the crystals, these white crystals, these earlier crystals. You can see it going through there. In thin section, it cuts across the euhedral crystal terminations. It forms micro-vug infill. It's later than all this. So these veins are actually a host. This telluride mineralisation is later. Now, interestingly, that mineralisation associated with those veins is then folded. So what we have here is the veins being folded, and what's folding them is this very fine scale axial planar cleavage here, which is a silica sericite pyrite feature, and that fabric is what hosts the majority of the mineralisation in the deposit. Volumetrically, that's where your Arsenian pyrite with your refractory gold and your free gold sits, and it's the bulk of the mineralisation. But it postdates this, and there's been a PhD subsequent to that which is located even another stage of veining again. Sigiono did some work on this recently. In this one here, what you can see here are these quartz veins. We've got a ultramafic in the background, which has been carbonate altered, and you can see that this vein here has undergone boudinage and pinch and swell. As it has been shortened, you can get extensional fractures in there, so we've got more than one stage of veining through here. And as that veining has been emplaced and then subsequently deformed, you can see that you're getting folding of those veins in association with the boudinage, and it is these veins that in turn host the gold. And the gold is coming in as they're deforming at the end. So you've got a two-stage competency contrast. You had the carbonate, which localised the veins, and then the veins preferentially fractured and localised the gold. The summary from all of these samples is that it is really, really important to get your overprinting right, because commonly your mineralisation is not the same age as the most visually obvious structures in the rock. So it may not be the same age as the visually obvious breccia stage or the visually obvious veining stage or the through-going fault stage. So get your overprinting right, guys.
And if you want to learn more about it, where do you go?
StructuralGeology.com.